But if we would have the courage to see what God sees, we would, yes, see the suffering, but we would also see the healing that God wants to visit upon all those that mourn. We would see the new world that God wants to make possible. We would see that God in Jesus says to us, blessed are those who are mourned, for they will be comforted. And that really describes that kingdom people should join God in comforting others. You know, it's hard to comfort the mourning until you know who they are, until you see them, until you hear their story, until you feel their pain. Matthew dares to tell us their story. But wouldn't we rather skip to the good part? Let me tell you, one of the most powerful things you can do is hear someone else's story. One of the best books I actually read in the last few years is a book called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. It's a New York Times bestseller. It was published about 17 years ago, and it's considered by many to be the go-to book on grief and trauma recovery. And throughout the book, in story after story, van der Kolk reminds us that if we don't transform our pain, we transmit our pain. If we don't work through our pain, pain will work in us. And literally, our body keeps the score. And so, if you don't process pain, it's going to show up in stress, in heart attacks to your body. It's going to work against you. And in the book, van der Kolk describes trauma like a mental block. You're just stuck. You're stuck in a moment of shock. And after pages, hundreds of pages of research, he makes the claim that one of the worst things to do for a trauma victim is to ask them to be silent about their story. He puts it like this in the book. He says, silence reinforces the God-forsaken isolation of trauma. And so one of the most powerful things you can do is hear someone's story. It gives them a voice. It helps them work through the pain. It gets them unstuck. It rehumanizes the dehumanized. And I think that's exactly what Matthew is doing in sharing this gritty story. It's what Matthew is inviting us to do as well. Because God sees the suffering of the world, and so should we.